In 2023, a 22-year-old Indonesian developer had an idea: build an app that detects early signs of illness in pets by analyzing eating patterns from a smart food bowl. He ran the numbers and gave up. Every AI inference call would cost $8. His target customers would pay $5 a month. The math didn't work. 18 months later, he launched the exact same product. The same concept, the same market, the same customers. The only thing that changed was the price of one AI call, which had dropped from $8 to 11 cents. Today, his app has 800,000 paying subscribers and does $48 million a year. The capability didn't change. The cost did. And that single variable, the price of intelligence, is spawning an entire generation of businesses that couldn't exist 24 months ago. Today, we're mapping the new business landscape that cheap AI has created. Not cheaper AI, cheap AI. There's a critical difference. When something gets 10% cheaper, existing users save money. When something gets 95% cheaper, entirely new users and use cases appear that were previously impossible. We'll look at the exact price thresholds where new business categories unlock, the companies already exploiting each tier, who gets destroyed when intelligence becomes too cheap to charge for, and why this cost collapse may ultimately be more disruptive than the original AI capability breakthrough itself. Let's start with the economics, because they explain everything else. Every time AI inference cost drops below a new threshold, an entire category of business becomes viable that wasn't before. At $10 per interaction, only high-value enterprise use cases make sense. Legal document review where a single contract is worth millions. Medical diagnosis assistance where a wrong answer costs lives. Financial fraud detection where each catch saves thousands. You need the output to be worth hundreds of dollars to justify the $10 input cost. At $1, customer support automation unlocks. You can afford to have AI handle a support ticket if the alternative is a $5 human interaction. This is why companies like Intercom and Zendesk built AI agents in 2024. The economics suddenly penciled out. At 50 cents, where frontier models sit right now, content personalization becomes viable at the individual level. You can afford to rewrite every email, customize every product recommendation, tailor every notification, and personalize every onboarding flow for each individual user. The unit economics finally work for mass personalization. At 10 cents, where smaller, fine-tuned models already operate, real-time translation, continuous document summarization, code review on every commit, and spam filtering at character level become profitable even at massive scale. And at 1 cent per interaction, which specialized edge models are approaching, you can put intelligence into every single user action, every click analyzed, every scroll interpreted, every keystroke predicted. That's not incremental improvement over existing software. It's a fundamentally different computing paradigm, where the software understands your intent in real time. The total addressable market expands by roughly 10 times, with each order of magnitude price drop. That's not linear growth, it's explosive. And we're still only 2 steps into a 5-step descent. The most interesting companies emerging from cheap AI aren't the ones building better chatbots or fancier enterprise tools. They're solving problems so niche, so specific, so small dollar, that they were never economically addressable before. Duolingo's AI tutor is the clearest mainstream example. They built personalized conversation practice that adapts to each learner's level, corrects grammar in real time, and role-play different scenarios. In 2023, this would have cost them $12 per user per session. Impossible for a free app with a $6 premium tier. At today's inference costs, each conversation costs them about 15 cents. They've added 40 million AI-powered sessions per month. In agriculture, A company called Agrix uses computer vision plus language models to analyze crop photos from smallholder farmers' phones and prescribe specific fertilizer adjustments. Their customers earn $2,000 to $5,000 per year. The product couldn't exist at even $1 per analysis. At 30 cents, it serves 3 million farmers across Southeast Asia who previously had no access to agronomic expertise. In healthcare, apps that monitor chronic conditions through daily check-in conversations are replacing periodic doctor visits for medication management. Each AI interaction costs the provider about 20 cents. A nurse practitioner doing the same work costs $40 per 15-minute interaction. The result? Continuous monitoring at 1/200th the cost of episodic care. The pattern is clear and repeatable. Cheap AI doesn't just make expensive things cheaper for existing customers. It creates entirely new markets among people and problems that could never afford intelligence before. The long tail of human needs is suddenly addressable. The winning strategy in the 50-cent AI era isn't building one expensive product for a few customers. It's building platforms that aggregate millions of cheap interactions across massive user bases. Consider the math. Stripe processes about 15 cents per transaction, individually meaningless. But they do it billions of times. Total revenue, over $4 billion annually. The same logic applies to AI. The company that can profitably serve a 50-cent AI interaction across 100 million users per day generates $50 million in daily revenue from individually worthless transactions. This is why horizontal AI platforms, the ones that handle any task rather than specializing in one, are attracting enormous valuations despite paper-thin margins. They don't need each interaction to be valuable. They need volume. OpenAI's consumer product is the clearest example. Individual conversations generate pennies in revenue at cents in cost. The margin per conversation is essentially nothing, but multiply by 200 million weekly active users, and you have a multi-billion-dollar business built on individually worthless transactions. It's a volume game. The infrastructure players are even better positioned. Companies providing compute, model serving, and API gateways collect a thin margin on every single AI interaction across every application, regardless of whether that application succeeds or fails. At sufficient scale, thin margins on cheap interactions compound into businesses with the same structural advantage as toll roads on a highway everyone must use. Cheap AI doesn't just create winners. It systematically destroys businesses that charged premium prices for work that AI can now do at near zero marginal cost. The translation industry is the starkest example. Professional human translation costs 15 to 25 cents per word. A 2,000-word document costs $300 to $500. AI translation now costs roughly 1/10 of a cent per word, the same document for about $2. The quality isn't identical, but for 80% of use cases, it's sufficient. Global translation revenue has dropped an estimated 30% since 2024. Content marketing agencies that charged $2,000 per blog post are being replaced by AI content tools costing $20 per month. Not because AI writes better than their best writers, it doesn't, but because most content marketing doesn't need to be exceptional. It needs to exist, be correct, and be produced at scale. Tutoring is following the same path. A human tutor charges $40 to $80 per hour. AI tutoring costs pennies per interaction and is available 24 hours a day. Khan Academy, Duolingo, and a dozen startups are proving that AI tutoring produces comparable learning outcomes at 1/500th the price. The common pattern: any service where the primary value is applying known knowledge to a routine task rather than generating novel insight is exposed to cost collapse. The premium evaporates because the floor has dropped to essentially zero. If you're building in 2026, the playbook has fundamentally changed from even 18 months ago. The old playbook: build something with AI that's 10 times better than the non-AI alternative. Charge enterprise prices. Sell to companies with big budgets through sales teams. That still works. But the market is crowded and the sales cycles are brutal. The new playbook: find a problem that affects millions of people, that couldn't be solved economically before cheap AI. Build a product with near zero marginal cost per user, and price it low enough that adoption is frictionless. No sales team needed. No onboarding calls. Just sign up and immediately get value. The ideal cheap AI startup has 4 characteristics. First, the customer base is massive but previously unserved. Gig workers, small businesses, students, developing market consumers. Second, the AI cost per transaction is low enough that even a tiny subscription covers it profitably. Third, the product is entirely self-serve, with zero human touch required at any point. Fourth, there's a data flywheel. Each user interaction makes the product better for all users, creating a compounding advantage. The irony is that these small businesses can reach revenue scale faster than traditional enterprise AI companies because their time to value is measured in seconds rather than months. No procurement process, no security review, no pilot program. Just download, use, upgrade. The 50-cent revolution is still in its early stages. Inference costs are dropping another 50% roughly every 9 months. The businesses that are viable at 50 cents today will be wildly profitable at 25 cents tomorrow. And the problems that aren't quite economical yet, the ones hovering at $1 or $2 per interaction, will unlock next year. The lesson is simple but profound. Don't just look at what AI can do. Look at what it costs. Because the most transformative applications aren't the most technically impressive ones. They're the ones that finally became cheap enough to deploy at the scale where they change millions of lives. If you're tracking these economic shifts, subscribe. We map the business implications of every major cost and capability milestone as it happens. Not the hype, the math. See you next time.